Today on the TMZ Podcast.
Welcome to the TMZ Podcast. Harvey Levin here.
Yeah, and Jason.
Such a sad story about Lisa Marie. And really, when you look at this whole family and the history, it reminds me a little bit of the Kennedys. You know, Elvis dying when he did at 42 of a heart attack. Lisa Marie's son committing suicide. And now this, she is dead at 54. So we broke a bunch of stories about this yesterday and have some sense of what happened here. She was complaining of intense stomach pain in the morning yesterday. And it was growing in intensity as the morning went on. And her ex-husband, who lives with her still, or lived with her, was taking the kids to school. And at a point, the housekeeper went in her bedroom and found her completely unresponsive. And the ex-husband had just come home. And the housekeeper was very emotional. And the ex-husband administered CPR and with no success. The paramedics came. They used epinephrine. They got a pulse back. But what I was told yesterday was that, you know, when you look at Hamlin, and it's interesting because with Hamlin, they were right on him.
Right, medical personnel.
Made a huge difference. And here, they don't know how long she was without a heartbeat, without, you know, anything that could cause brain damage as a result. And she died. But it is interesting about this intense stomach pain that this seemed to be something other than what we often hear about. And again, we don't know the cause of death. You know, to be honest with you, I've talked to people who are connected to the family who have told us some things that make sense, but it's not, abusing drugs. So
there's no drink. When somebody at 54 dies of a heart attack, especially given her family history, frankly,
right?
The thoughts immediately go to, was she high on something? Was she doing drugs? But from what we found, that's not the case.
I don't know how to say this. Number one, they wanted to make something clear. This was not suicide.
Right.
They or attempted suicide. In terms of drugs, not illegal drugs, not the usual type of prescription drugs. There may be something beyond that I've been hearing about, and I don't know whether it's true or not, but it would align with the stomach issue.
Got it.
So anyway, it's just such a sad story.
Yeah.
And now she's got two kids, and
three kids. One's older, I guess.
Yeah.
But
there are twins.
She was first married to Danny Keough. And that's the ex-husband you were referencing earlier that was there with her and came and performed CPR. They had two children together, one of whom committed suicide a couple of years ago.
Right.
And then she was married.
Lockwood.
What's his name?
Lockwood.
And she had two additional children with
That's what I'm talking about. Okay. So the question, he has apparently 50-50 custody, so presumably he would get custody of the kids. This was a very acrimonious divorce.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, yes.
Got it.
And there might be some struggles in terms of where these kids go based on what I've been hearing. We still don't know. Again, it's less than a day old, but it's so sad.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, two small kids at home, and I go back to your point about the sadness surrounding this family, the alignment with the Kennedys. Anytime you hear about multiple generations of family members dying at an incredibly young age, you can't help but equate them with the Kennedys. She was, I'm old enough to remember her as a little child who was lauded by the media. I remember her father's death. I
remember exactly where I was. You know where I was when he died? I was practicing law in downtown L.A., and I remember...
I was a toddler with my family.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know. Okay. Hey, everybody, I'm old. If you guys want to know, I'm really old.
Well, everybody else that's in this room producing this podcast thinks I'm old. So,
I was a young lawyer at the time. I think I was 26.
Got it.
And I had just come back from lunch, and I walked into the lobby of my law firm, and I remember hearing it from the receptionist and thinking, that can't be. It was so, it was one of those where you just can't how could Elvis Presley?
Let me ask you a question about that. I know this is not about Elvis, it's about Lisa Marie, but it was long before the days of TMZ and everything else. Did people know about Elvis's
Yes.
drug use?
Yes.
And were people aware of the fact he was now overweight and drug-addled and the whole thing?
Yeah, remember, he was a big Las
still a
Vegas
huge
act.
fit. That's
And
right.
so, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I mean, there's really nothing else to say. We're going to move on. But it's just really, really, really sad.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for Priscilla.
Yeah. Oh, God. Priscilla, yeah.
Yeah.
They were just at the Golden Globes with Austin Butler.
2 days before.
2 days before. And they seemed to be reveling in Austin Butler's win and the success of the movie and everything else.
We're going to have more on this. You can check the website, but there are things going on with this. So check the website. Okay. I want to talk about TJ Holmes and Amy Robach because everybody's kind of reported this in terms of just what's ABC doing? What's ABC doing? What's ABC doing? Well, now we know what TJ and Amy are doing. They have lawyered up in a big way. They have hired two very powerful civil lawyers in Hollywood. Amy has hired a guy named Andrew Brettler, who is one of the best civil lawyers, I think, in the business.
Yep.
Really, really good. And TJ has hired Eric George, who is also a really powerful civil lawyer who was involved in the Michael Jackson case, involved in the Mel Gibson case.
If you search either of these guys, you will find a list of celebrity clients they've represented over the years.
So they lawyered up for a reason. And the reason is that ABC initially, we are told, said, you did nothing wrong. You are two consenting adults. You have equal jobs. One is not, exerting power over the other, asserting power over the other. And, there's nothing wrong with it. You're, whatever you do at home and whatever your marriage is like, that's not our business. And then all of a sudden they do this about face and they take them off the air for more than a month. And now there's talk, could they end up being fired? Could they end up being moved around? So that is not going to happen without a fight at all. And so what we are told is that Eric George and Andrew Brettler are looking at a couple of things. Wrongful termination, constructive termination. That means when you essentially force somebody out of a job.
Right.
And they are talking about raising the issue of race.
Right. So TJ Holmes, obviously a black man. They asked the question, has at any time in the history of this show, has any relationship between consenting adults of the same race, two white people actually is what they say, two white people relationship, consenting adults at the same level, has that ever resulted in an adverse action? What you talked about, either termination or some sort of you're being kicked off your show for a lesser show, any adverse action? Has it ever resulted in that before? To again, consenting relationship, two equally stationed white adults, and that's a very difficult question to answer because I don't know that I've ever heard of that happening. Two people at the same level who get into a relationship who are terminated. So my guess is the answer is they've never done that before.
That's kind of where I'm going too. By the way, in case you don't know, we're both lawyers, and I had not thought of this.
Well,
I had not thought of this tactic before, but it's something that these lawyers we know are talking about. And it never occurred to me, but this is a hot button issue with corporations. Mm-hmm. And they need to answer that question.
Do they?
Well, I think they might in deposition.
Here's my take. And Andrew Brettler and Eric George are very good lawyers, but they're also representing clients, and they are putting a foot forward. There are well established principles here that a television show can put anybody on the air it wants to. Period. It's the reason that The Bachelor, and this is found legally in California and elsewhere, The Bachelor doesn't have to cast black contestants ever. They were actually sued, The Bachelor was, for only casting white contestants. And The Bachelor said, you can't sue us for that. Forget about the merits. You can't sue us for it. We have a First Amendment right to put anybody we want in front of the camera, period. And the court said, absolutely. The Bachelor could forever just do straight white bachelors and discriminate against every minority group. That would be fine. Similarly here, ABC can say, we don't want you on stage. Forget about your race claims. We're not even going to address those. We have a First Amendment right to put anybody on screen we want, period. And even if we did say, we don't want a black man on screen, ABC, for the same reason The Bachelor can put anybody on screen at once, the Supreme Court has not addressing this case, but the U.S. Supreme Court has said you have a First Amendment right to put people on screen you want, and that trumps any sort of biases or race issues, just like an all-black network does not have to cast a white person in a role on a television show. It just doesn't.
I disagree with you.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. You've heard of the cases where a news anchor gets fired and he or she files an age discrimination lawsuit or a discrimination lawsuit based on somebody who may have gained more weight and that the station doesn't like it. Those cases have not only settled, there are several that have gone to judgment. I'd have to
look at those. I'm not familiar with them, but I'd have to look at them. People have sued for age
discrimination. And settled, and some have gone to judgment. And I remember, do you remember the name Hunter Tylo?
I don't.
Hunter Tylo was an actress, and I believe she was on Melrose Place. And I don't remember the show. It may have been Melrose Place, but I don't quite remember. She got pregnant, and they essentially fired her, I believe. And she sued, and she won. And they said, you can't do that. So there are guardrails on this. There are limits.
I will have to look up the case of Hunter Tylo to see it. There may be
and I remember news anchors doing this as well. So look, there are two ways of looking at that. One is, legally, can you win it? And two, does this put a pressure point on ABC? And I think the answer to two is definitely yes.
It's interesting to me that they hired two known Hollywood attorneys. They do not live in Hollywood. Amy and TJ, they have never worked out here as far as I know.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. But it's interesting to me. The play is interesting. They're certainly great New York City litigators. What they wanted were celebrity attorneys, right? These guys represent celebrities. They could have hired phenomenal New York plaintiffs' attorneys.
That's true.
The best in the world. I think they wanted to be part of the conversation, don't you?
These two guys are at the same level as the people you're talking about.
No question about it.
So why not get two guys who are at the same level and have experience navigating in this world?
Well, there's lots of people who have experience navigating.
They have a lot.
In similar. I don't know. To me, and I'm not faulting them for it, they want this story to be about two celebrities who have been wronged. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm saying that's why they went after two really high-profile celebrity lawyers. They're great. I got it. They're great lawyers as well.
So what do you do if you're ABC? You're ABC right now. You're Bob Iger.
I think that you get out there and you make it clear what your plans for these people are, right? We have heard nothing from them.
Nothing.
We don't understand what...
Well, they've heard nothing from them.
They've heard nothing
from them. They haven't been told... the one thing I was told when we were preparing the story, which we put in the site this morning, the only thing they said that they may have possibly done wrong is that they didn't give ABC a heads up in a timely fashion. But the way it was put to me was, a timely fashion what? You're supposed to say, I've caught feelings and I need to tell you immediately? So they're almost scoffing at the notion that would be the only thing.
I can't understand what ABC, and you mentioned Bob Iger, what Disney, the overlords, what they're doing here. I just don't understand it. I mean, they have two popular people who...
The ratings went up.
And when they had them on immediately after the affair broke, the ratings went through the roof. And they have these incredibly hot commodities that they're paying a salary to just to sit on the sidelines. Mm-hmm. I can't fathom it. Nobody cares that these two are together in terms of, I'm not going to watch ABC, I'm not going to watch their show because these two had a consensual affair. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. If I'm not wrong, ABC should come out and indicate, that would be their legal defense, really, is ratings go down, we're not going to keep...
Well, they can't say that.
But they can't say that because ratings have gone up.
Right.
What do they be? I have no clue.
Well,
which leads me to believe there might be something deeper that we just don't know.
It may be.
Yeah.
It may be, but they haven't... They haven't said anything.
Yeah, I know.
They haven't... And by the way, suppose they have something on one of them, but not both of them. How do they then bench both of them?
Well, again, from my perspective...
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. From my perspective, they can... It'd be weird if they just brought back one of them. That would be really awkward.
Well, you say, well, hold on.
They'd have to leak the reason.
But then one of them is collateral damage.
Yeah, I mean that's.
Well, how do you say my career just got destroyed by collateral damage?
Well, when you start sleeping with somebody, you take on their baggage.
No, you don't. No, you
absolutely take on their baggage.
You do not. Come on. Come on.
If you started dating Ava Braun, people would be like, well.
Well, I mean, Ava Braun's a little different. I mean, Jesus, Jason.
I had to come up with an extreme example to make my point.
Oh God, Kanye. Honest to God.
Wait a minute.
I'm kidding you.
You're Kanye in that example.
No.
Because Kanye would date Ava Braun.
I think that's right. My God. Okay, have a good weekend, everybody. We will see you Monday.